Just going to make sure I'm using the things that we learned yesterday. So
Love
I'm
it.
conditioning myself and should be ready to go. But for those of you
I
that
love
missed
it.
it, very great session.
Yeah.
So if you see me reading, I'm trying out my script one more time before the weekend, but really excited to get your feedback. And then you will not see me reading on pitch day. So I just wanted to give that caveat. But hi, everyone. I'm Sydney, the CEO and co-founder of Vessl. Since my training in biomedical engineering, I have been passionate about prosthetic innovation. So I co-founded Vessl to dedicate my life to developing solutions. We are challenging traditional thoughts around disability using a human-centered design approach to deliver painless experiences, starting with amputees. Prosthetists say that poor socket fit, which is the fit between an amputee's leg and their prosthetic leg, is the biggest problem in prosthetics today. For Vessel's flagship product, our team of engineers and prosthetic leaders designed an automatically adjusting socket, empowering amputees to lead healthier and more comfortable lives. Imagine that you're walking for an hour in the mall or Costco in shoes that are too big. You get home and your feet are a bloody mess of blisters. Now imagine that you're an amputee like Ed here, and this is happening to your leg. It is so painful that you are wheelchair bound until the blisters heal, and you wake up every morning afraid that you will get infected and lead to another amputation. This is called poor socket fit, and it is far too common, affecting all 50 million amputees around the world. Ed's leg changes size throughout the day and in the long term, creating chafing and pain in his rigid socket. Current sockets rely on Ed to know when and how to adjust his socket fit. He has to regularly remove his socket and add a sock underneath to make up for his shrinking leg. The constant adjustments are frustrating, time-consuming, and inconvenient, and the concept is difficult to grasp and maintain. Ultimately, many lower limb amputees will just stop using their prosthesis altogether. Thankfully, Vessl has a unique solution. Our isoform socket is the only socket that automatically adjusts as Ed's leg shrinks and swells. It does not rely on sensors to sense pressure on the leg. Rather, there are mechanical components that store potential energy in the socket and slowly release it into the adjustable panels to maintain a comfortable fit. The level of pressure is set by the prosthetist during the fitting of the prosthesis, since each socket is custom made to the amputee. The prosthetist uses the same workflow as usual, measuring the amputee's residual leg and sending those measurements to a central fabrication site for manufacturing. With isoform, Ed avoids the pressure extremes that often lead to blisters, so he can walk around all day comfortably. He only visits his prosthetist when he needs a new prosthetic leg, so prosthetists retain their patients while spending their time on billable events. We're entering into a very attractive market where every 30 seconds, a leg is amputated around the world. For our flagship product, our total addressable market is the global prosthetics market, which is $6.6 billion and growing. Diabetes is seeing 16% growth in just 5 years, which is a major driving force behind this market growth. Based on the 1.5 million Americans with a below-the-knee amputation, our serviceable addressable market is $1.5 billion. The American market is also being driven by an intense demand for prosthetists, whose employment growth is twice the national average. With our flagship product, our serviceable obtainable market is $745 million, accounting for amputees' eligibility for a prosthetic socket and the frequency with which they are eligible for a new one. This represents our beachhead market, and based on comparable companies, we can expect to obtain 5% of the market. We have filed provisional patents around our technology, protecting all methods of automatic passive volume adjustment. Our legal team is confident that our broad claims will protect our technology and that prior art still gives us the freedom to operate. While our provisional patent was filed in the United States, we plan to file a PCT application and a full US application by the end of this year. Our PCT filing gives us the time to examine which jurisdictions are most advantageous in which to file full applications. Our isoform socket comes out on top when compared to 3 competitor categories because of our automatic adjustments that occur passively. Manually adjustable sockets rely on constant manual operation, making them inaccessible to amputees with poor dexterity or sensation loss. It leaves the burden of socket adjustments on the amputee. Bionic sockets are stuck in research and development, remaining too costly, bulky, and heavy to be clinically relevant, as we have heard from several prosthetists. Traditional sockets are static, so they rely on prosthetic socks for volume management, which is frustrating and inconvenient, as I mentioned. Isoform's automatic adjustments make comfort accessible to the masses. Without disrupting prosthetist workflow, Isoform reduces the number of appointments they spend on socket fit management, appointments that are poorly reimbursed. Prosthetists can use existing healthcare codes to cover the Isoform socket cost, while competitors add fabrication time and cost, cutting into clinics' profits. With increased comfort comes increased wear time and mobility, all with fewer clinic appointments, saving amputees and prosthetists time and money. Vessl operates in a business-to-business model with a global plan, but starting in the United States. We will manufacture by partnering with central fabrication sites to whom prosthetists are familiar outsourcing. This makes our cost of goods sold about $400. We will sell our socket to prosthetists, first through our own sales force and then through distributors as we expand. Prosthetists want to ensure 30% of their revenue is spent on materials and labor for the socket fabrication, which is how we calculated our selling price. Then prosthetists are reimbursed through insurance using existing CPT codes. The socket payment is a one-time fee, but amputees are eligible for a socket replacement every 3 years or by recommendation from their doctor, which supports a recurring revenue model. To go to market, we have already begun engaging with the Veterans Affairs and will use their 2% market share and uniquely strong funding model to enter the industry. We have an in with them through the Innovation Network, but we'll also be meeting with leading VA executives at the Medical Health Science Research Symposium that the military hosts annually. Shortly after, we will sell into the Hanger Distribution Network, which represents almost a quarter of all clinics in the United States. Hanger has a long-standing relationship with the VA, so as our relationship with the VA strengthens, our adoption to Hanger becomes easier. We will also meet with Hanger at leading prosthetic conferences, such as AOPA, every September. Together, these large distribution channels will give us the resources and foundation to sell to smaller networks and individual clinics. To support our sales efforts, we will build brand awareness at conferences and trade shows. We will attract champions and early adopters through clinical partnerships. And we will target leads through direct sales. We have achieved significant milestones since incorporating. We began engaging with the Veterans Affairs, working with prosthetists and amputees from 5 of their healthcare centers on product validation. We met VA prosthetists earlier this year virtually to ask questions about the clinical viability of our design and to validate our assumptions. By the end of this year, we will send our socket to participating centers to obtain their feedback on the physical device. We've raised pre-seed round and to date have secured over $1 million in dilutive and non-dilutive funding combined. We've spent the funds in 4 key areas: product development, voice of customer, IP strategy, and market research. Most recently, we started the Techstars Physical Health Fort Worth program to secure strategic partnerships in the United States and expand our network. We are using the current funds to finish our minimum viable product to be tried with amputees. In the new year, we will begin our seed raise and apply for our medical device license to prepare for commercialization. We are an FDA Class 1 medical device, which means registration should take 1 month. We do not require clinical trials to go to market, but prosthetists do like to see some clinical data, so we will perform some studies with amputees before and after we commercialize. We are seeking a $2 million seed round in the new year to conduct clinical case studies and launch our product in the United States. This raise will last us 18 months and get us to revenue generation. Then we'll raise a Series A to scale. For the clinical study, our goal is to test comfort and function of the Isoform socket with around 30 amputees. This study will take 4 months for recruitment, 2 months to complete, and then 2 months for review of the data. We are in discussions with several academic organizations and prosthetic clinics with whom we could partner for the study. Prosthetists have told us which tests to perform so that the information gathered is relevant to their decision-making process. Mergers and acquisitions are also common in the prosthetics market to expose the parent company to the industry or for vertical integration. Typically, large manufacturers or clinic networks look for companies that are generating revenue and offer multiple products. While we're building a sustainable company, if we were given a reasonable offer, we would exit via acquisition. One way that we're building a sustainable company is by partnering with these large manufacturers for research collaborations. Based on the number of sockets each prosthetist in our pipeline will purchase, we estimate our 5-year revenue to be $39 million, reaching 5% of our SOM by year 5. Our costs will decrease as we partner with the larger central fabrication sites for manufacturing. Our costs will also decrease when we release the kit version of our socket solution, where prosthetists can use our kit to fabricate the socket in-house. To date, we have 23 clinics in our pipeline, servicing 7,500 amputees, and are focused on converting those initial conversations into committed orders. Based on comparable companies and the strategic partnerships we're establishing, an exit is likely to occur in 2026 with a median value multiple of 12 times. My skills as a biomedical engineer and my co-founder's skills as a clinical anatomist are complemented by Trey's successful business exits. Our research backgrounds have taught us end-user design, research, and prototyping skills. Alexi and I have built research projects from the ground up, securing our own funding and developing our own outcome measures. We have also surrounded ourselves with leading experts in prosthetics and company creation to guide Vessl to success. Our advisors include Ben, a certified prosthetist with a background in biomaterials engineering and varied clinical experience, including at Shriners Hospital. Trey, a serial entrepreneur with a dozen successful exits, and the managing director of Techstars Physical Health Fort Worth. And Jim, whose new products have generated nearly $1 billion in sales and who's named on 14 patents. Vessl is the only company solving poor socket fit with a unique solution. Prosthetists and amputees say that this is the largest problem in prosthetics and that our solution is needed. Our proprietary technology allows the socket to adapt to the leg, thereby decreasing discomfort. So we're addressing a $1 billion market with a low-risk device. Join us in helping amputees like Ed get reliably back on their feet.
Fantastic job. And you're at 11 minutes and 36 seconds. So beautiful timing as well, Sydney.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, let's dive right into feedback so we can make the most of our time. No, oh, David unmuted. Here we go. It's your turn, David.
Awesome. Such a lovely presentation. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to hear everything you said. And obviously you're smarter than all of us, so that's really good as well. The market that you're in is something I'm very much for entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs especially, that are addressing a market that help people that have a social remedy. So I love what you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Some of the feedback I have is I'm not sure from your presentation how exactly the prosthetic adjusts. You talk about that it does adjust, but I would like to have seen a little bit more of how it does that and what proprietary links are part of that, because it's easy to say it adjusts, but without having the RTB, the reason to believe, which is super important in presentations, you have to tell me how it adjusts, whether it's through friction or the person adjusts it themselves, or there's some sort of technology or system that allows it to adjust. You don't have to tell me now, but I'm just saying that's one thing I felt was missing, and it sounds like you have the solution. But I would like people to hear very quickly. It can be a 30-second. It adjusts. It self-adjusts, because you said it self-adjusts by doing this, and this is what we're proprietary focusing on. And so that would be, I think, a benefit. When you talk about brand awareness, the only caution I have, having done over 35 startups, is brand awareness for a lot of investors is just like, it's hocus pocus. Like, we don't care about brand awareness. What we care about is brand awareness that creates demand generation. So I love your slides that say you've connected with all these great organizations. That to me is, I would say, you know what, we don't have brand awareness. We have brand marketing demand generation. And the conversation is, because we've connected with all these wonderful organizations that are absolutely targeted and perfect for your business. That to me is more special. Sometimes brand awareness sounds like, oh, we're going to have a really groovy website and we're going to update this and we're going to be Instagram, and you may be on all those, but and that's totally fine. But as long as it relates to demand generation, then I think you're on a better track. The valuations, I guess other people may have given you information of valuations that might be contradictory to what I'm saying, and that's fine. You can ignore what I say. Most people, my wife does. Anyways, I'm just saying valuations of $8 million and $39 million in 5 years. You have to be very careful, because we've invested in companies that have said the same things, and that 40 million or 50 million is 2, or it's 7, or it's, you know, so just to be careful on the valuations. And it's good to quote other sources and other organizations that have had those valuations. Totally acceptable. In fact, the best way to get credibility on valuations is to relate yourself to other organizations, but be careful that you're relating to apples and apples, and not what I've often seen is, yeah, well, such and such a company, I'm dealing with a software gaming company, and they're saying, well, yeah, this other company that's like us got a 80 million valuation, and they're not even like them at all. You know, they don't have 5 million users or 50 million users. You know, it's so just be careful on the valuations. But I'm not your best source for that, but the market would be your best source for that. And I have one last personal question. What's your link with Baylor?
With Baylor?
Baylor, you say you have a link with someone in your connections with Baylor University in Texas?
Oh, yes. Trey went to Baylor. Trey Bowles is one of our
okay.
advisors. He went to Baylor.
Okay, so I did a robotics startup at a Baylor 7 years ago. So a great place, brilliant people. It was nice to see it. It was nice to see it on the docket. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much. That's really great feedback, David. And I'm glad that this is recorded so that I can go back and make all those changes. Thank you.
I wish you the absolute best of luck. I think what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Okay, who wants to go next? Marina.
Sure. So first of all, I thought this was amazing. I love what you're doing. I'm kind of going to echo a lot of what David was saying. So apologies for that. But I love that you're in a helping business, like helping people, and that humanity piece. I think that just lights up everybody's interest right there. I think you do a brilliant job in telling the story. So you're actually telling the story. Imagine that. And I think that kind of starts to bring into something. I think you did it amazingly. You talk about automatically adjust, and that's kind of where I just kind of, but how? So I think this is very valid. I had the same kind of feeling as David did, is like, you're just saying, this is what the problem is. This is how everybody else does it. And just trust me, we do it better. Right. So I think it doesn't have to be long, much like what David said, but enough so that I believe you that yours is actually better. It's not just something that I'd have to take your word for it. Mm-hmm. I think I also kind of, my notes were around maybe some sort of a stat or something with it's better, it works like this, and it's better by 5%, by 10%. I don't know, but you have to bring it down to earth so that we're somebody who is investing in this believes that what you're doing is not just a claim, and that you really have solidified that. So I think that's going to be critical. I loved how you focused in on your SAMs, so your serviceable available market. I love that, because you're actually not thinking, oh, we're going to take everything. You know that you're not, and you don't care about the things that are noise. You focused in. And then you kind of jumped into, we're going to take 5% of the TAMs. And to me, it was kind of like, okay. And you stated it as a given. I think maybe, and you don't need to spend a lot of time, but why is it 5? You could have said 15, but you didn't. And why are you saying 5 and not 1? Right. So just give it a little bit more substantial, something that really brings it home that, yeah, 5 makes sense. I can see how she can get at least 5, if not more, type of thing. Right. I think, and this is, I've been in medtech, but in a very different side. So not in this world specifically, but I don't know if it's worth, and take this with a grain of salt, but around licenses, approvals, government, You know, just a very quick, we already have this approval, this approval, this approval, and we just need to seek this and that, because that gives an investor a feeling with, are we just starting this and I can invest a whole lot of money and then this gets totally shut down? Or are we almost all the way down the path, right? So this is a critical piece. I think that would help if you just made maybe just one bullet somewhere. Also, the team, amazing. Credentials are incredible. Love that. I don't know if you purposefully left out any experience, and it doesn't have to be actual work experience between yourself and the co-founder that you're working with, but some other experience other than just academia. I think so. I'm in no way diminishing that. I think it's phenomenal. It's absolutely critical. But if you do have other experiences, this is a really good place to shine that a little bit more, because people are investing in people. They're not necessarily investing in the ideas. And then I think very much like what David had said around how you'll create that demand, right? And so that's back to, I do agree completely. Marketing is a bit of it's an abyss, right? And so, and especially since it almost sounds like you're going from B to C, but I know you're not. So I love that. When you say demand, you want to qualify that. So how are you going to get that interest? And I think you did do some of it. Maybe you just need to go a little bit deeper to really land at home. So it's not much more. I think you did an amazing job. I love what you guys are doing. I think you're going to make a huge difference to so many people. So yeah, I wish you the best of luck, Sydney.
Thank you so much, Marina. That was really constructive, and I'm looking forward to making all those changes. I think you hit on some good pieces there that were left out, so I'm excited to add those in. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, Sydney, I'm not going to repeat some of the points Marina and David has touched. I always love your energy for your presentation. Maybe you can slow down a little bit, because you're really good on the time, especially for, I wrote down a few key areas it might be helpful for people to digest when they listen to you. First is about like how to adjust, which David and Marina both mentioned. So this is actually the key to show you have something different. If you have any scientific proof that you can show here, that will be even better to convince them we have a very solid, validated technology to address the challenge, which other competitors, they're not there yet, something like that. And also IP is something you have. This is something for the defensiveness here, that you can slow down a little bit here as well to talk about how strong the IP you're thinking about to file, or the strategy moving forward for us. This is also what they will be very interested at. Then moving to, you have a hardware piece, because the moment you have the hardware piece, then there are a lot of questions in the investor's mind. So you might want to touch a little bit more on the hardware piece of the strategy, whatever the manufacturing supply chain you're thinking about. Because this is going to be just to kind of giving them some initial information. You have thought about that. Some company may have even a few slides at the appendix if there's a question coming up, that you can be prepared to address those details. Then talking about your raise, I'm not sure if we need valuation on the slides, as what David has mentioned. It could be just generally say, you know, because we have an ambitious milestone table, this is what we are looking for 2 million to achieve the next 2 years runway for this and that goal. Because valuation always a sensitive number. You can leave it for further discussion individually with the investor you are interested with. Also, the financial overview. Because we're in the medical device kind of medtech space, honestly, I'll be more interested to learn heavily about your regulatory path, about your commercialization, about your clinical study. Honestly, without that, I'm not interested at all on your numbers for the projection. It just sounds too far for me. So for that, you can maybe think about the way when you emphasize on the clinical trial on the other piece. So they understand this is, you have solid plan already for the regulatory. This is what kind of the FDA medical device class 2, whatever we're going to do, and you're going to US, and what is the US path going to look like? I'm assuming there are a lot of difference between the two borders. Then for the projection, instead of all these numbers, because I mean it's limited time, like are we all gonna really digest or no? Maybe a chat or something just kind of quickly pass, because just like personally, I feel like I don't look at projection. I'm more interested to learn about the other things for the medical device company. And another quick thing is the technical things. Because when you are talking about the competition slides, the logo is all at the bottom. And then I find on my laptop screen, it's actually cut half. I can't see them. I have to move it to my laptop, sorry, the other screen to be able to see it. So I don't know, maybe you can talk to the designer, see like how you can adjust the size, make sure when people doesn't really matter it's laptop or the screen that they can see all the information. Otherwise, like they can see the bottom content.
That's a great point. Yeah, I definitely don't want to lose in on that. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for that, Farron.
No problem.
It's helpful to know what to focus on as well. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, lots of feedback, lots of really great positive feedback. Awesome job, Sydney. I'm just gonna stop the recording.